Okay, everybody, we are ready to get going, and we are live on Facebook now. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Jeremy Laguerre, and I'm excited to be with you. This is my first time ever being Facebook Live and on a call, so you're going to have to forgive me because I don't know if I'm talking to someone on the phone right now or a video. So I may go back and forth a little bit, but again, I'm excited to be with you, and I believe we've got some great content. As always, feel free to put some questions down, some thumbs up, maybe some frowny faces if you don't like what I'm saying or the way I look, whatever that might be. But yeah, engage, participate, we'll do some questions, and we're excited to be rolling today. Let me grab a marker here. So for those of you on the call and not on Facebook Live, if you want to see it on Facebook, just go to Facebook through the Century 21 page and you'll see us. And let's get rolling. So gang, the conversation that I want to have today is all about some of the market conditions we're facing and some of the ways that you can actually take advantage of the market. So if we look as a general statement, we're looking right now at low inventory and high demand. Now the inventory is what? Well, those are the homes that are available. And this is pretty much across the nation as a general statement right now, that there are not enough homes available for the number of people that want to purchase a home. And so this is one of the most important things for us to consider right now on how do you proceed, how do you move forward at making this work and be effective. So the demand, of course, is coming from buyers who are asking themselves and saying, how in the world, oops, did we go the wrong way on that? Okay, well now I'm here. Can you see me now? Okay. So low inventory, high demand. So the demand is, of course, from buyers right now who are excited about the low interest rates. And this is one of the best things for us to be experiencing because 40-year low interest rates still. This is something that everyone's really excited about. Second bit to that is going to be extremely low inventory. So what are we facing? Well, I've got it huge in big letters up there, multiple offers. What every single person who's representing a buyer is experiencing and every single person who is representing a seller is experiencing how to effectively work through a highest and best situation. And this is important for both the buyer, the agent representing the buyer, and the seller, not just exclusively for the buyer agent, because a listing agent has got to master the skill of being able to figure out who is the best person for my clients to accept. It's not just about getting in fact I'll write this up because it's so important. Hopefully you can see the board. I won't write it. Highest and best. If you're taking notes, write it down. Highest and best. So it's not just highest, okay? So if you look from a multiple offer standpoint, the highest is going to be, okay, who's going to net the seller the most amount of money? Typically, when there are multiple offers, they're calling for not just who's going to give me the most money, they say, I'd like to see highest and best. And best is what I want to focus on for just a minute. What actually is the best? And how can you impact that for your client? So, let me erase a couple things on the board here and get rolling with that. So step one, from both a buyer standpoint and a selling agent standpoint, is going to be likable. Okay? You want everyone rooting for you. So I'm going to put that up on the board. Be likable. Being likable is the standpoint that if you're representing a buyer, you want that listing agent to be cheering you on. You want them to be hoping that you're the agent and your client is the one that's going to get this sale. So be thoughtful of that. What steps can you take in order to be the person that the listing agent wants to work with through this transaction? So you can be thinking of steps that you can take, for instance, not just asking lots of questions, how about asking really good questions? So the standard question we always want to ask is, hey, what's your highest offer? What do I need to do to get that done? You might be a little bit more thoughtful in your approach on that and start with the questions like, what's most important to your seller throughout this transaction? Is your seller most concerned about getting the house sold, meaning someone performing, getting their inspections done, and actually closing the sale? Or is your seller mostly so concerned about they want top dollar? One way that I've asked that over the years is I would ask them a question similar to, okay, so here's a scenario. You've got a cash buyer who will close in 3 days, and they'll pay you $225,000 in 3 days, or you've got someone that will get a loan and they'll close in 30 days, but they'll pay you $2,000 more. Which of those scenarios do you believe that your seller is going to want to participate with? Which transaction and which buyer would they want to engage with most? That question will tell you a lot about who you want to work with and who they want to work with and what the most important factors of that transaction are. So asking questions like that and being professional help in the process. Second key to being likable is expanding and maybe thinking outside the box a little bit and not having an expectation. In fact, I just heard from a listing agent very recently that said they had multiple offers, and one of the agents who they knew came to them almost with some type of expectancy, like they were going to get this deal because they knew each other and he was expecting more information. This really turned the listing agent off to this situation and ultimately hurt the buyers in that transaction. So it's important that you do things to put yourself in the good graces of that listing agent, and then at the same time, listing agents. Make sure that you see who's working hard at doing that. Don't discount, or maybe I'll rephrase that, not necessarily don't discount, but make sure that you are taking into consideration and giving credit to the fact that when you've got an agent that's trying to ask you good questions, trying to think outside the box, trying to find ways to make this a good transaction for your seller, don't discount how great that is. And then of course the key thing is going to be listen to what you learn. If you learn from a listing agent that their seller wants a leaseback would be fantastic. They're so focused on getting out of the house that they would rather take a few $1,000s less, so performance is what's most important to them. Then make sure that you take that information and use it to your benefit. So from a listing agent standpoint, be thoughtful of the idea that they may be asking you some questions that you don't know the answer of, and if you've got an agent on the other end that's willing to structure an offer around your seller's needs, perhaps you should be going to your client and asking some of the same questions, like, would a leaseback be important to you? Hey, for instance, if we get 2 offers that come in, one can close sooner and a little bit more of a guarantee, but the other one's for more money, which is more important? So you can see these thoughts and principles, they really work both ways. And you as representing the buyer or you representing the seller can have a great impact on that. So number 1, be likable, and that includes communication, asking great questions. Number 2, I'm just going to put in there the offer, okay? So the offer is where you can have a big impact. So of course, look, we'd go offer 1, you're going to do price and closing, okay? And you might even just equal that to say the seller's net. What is the seller going to net at the end of the day? That's a very important piece to this puzzle. You never discount it at all. But as I said before, it's not only about what's the highest offer, it's about highest and best. So from a best standpoint, let's talk for a moment about how and what areas you can improve the offer. For those of you listening outside the state of Utah, I'm very familiar with the real estate contract here in Utah. I might be missing a few pieces to your contracts as I roll through this. If I am, feel free to contribute and participate and share some thoughts. But I think as a general statement, we'll be following along with some of the most important pieces that we're going to be looking at. So number 2, so this is really your highest. So now let's look at best. What are some areas in which you can make your offer better than someone else's? So we'll start with number 1, and really after price and closing costs, I'm going to go into earnest money. What is the amount of earnest money that you are putting down and offering, and how soon does that go non-refundable? If it's important to someone to learn and the performance is so important, what you may consider is finding a way to make your earnest money go non-refundable sooner to make your offer better. So what I mean by that, and I've got to be very careful here because this is a way that you can make your offers better, but you have to then really be on your game from a risk management standpoint of it now. Because if you're going to let your earnest money become non-refundable sooner, you have to make sure you're on top of your dates, your deadlines, everything in order to protect that client. So I would be looking at my earnest money in conjunction with the contingencies. And these are your deadlines, right? So what are the actual deadlines? So in conjunction with your earnest money becoming non-refundable, in addition to your deadlines, which are going to be a part of the contract, can you adjust those to make them more enticing one way or another? The answer is absolutely yes. And if you're on the call and you want to communicate it all and ask a question, feel free to jump in at any time. You can hit 4* and unmute yourself and ask a question. So contingencies. You think for a moment, well, here in Utah, you've got number 1, your seller disclosure deadline. Number 2, your buyer due diligence deadline. And then number 3, you have your financing and appraisal deadline. And then number 4 is your settlement deadline. Think for a moment when you're in the midst of a highest and best offer, what can you do to strengthen your client's offer with the use of those dates? Well, the thought would be immediately, and back when I was selling full time, I would take the opportunity to say to someone, all right, here's the deal. We're going to offer $2,000 in earnest money. And 500 of that is going to go non-refundable. I've actually done this before where I'd say 500 goes non-refundable the second you accept our offer. I mean, when you're in the middle of a battle, we're hearing things of, I actually heard someone the other day say they had, I think, over 60 offers on their property. 60 offers. You really have to think outside the box when you get to that point, because even when you've got 10, 11, or 12 offers, you have got to find a way to get a number 1. So that's where thinking outside the box can really help. So back to this thought is, you've got $2,000 earnest money to play with. I've done in the past where I'd say, if you just accept our offer, we want to show you how committed we are to this purchase, then we will offer you $500 non-refundable just to accept our offer. Number 2, we'll offer an additional $500 after our due diligence deadline. So it goes completely non-refundable. Oh, and by the way, we're going to move and this is how you connect the 2 items here, we're going to actually move our due diligence deadline up it's only 5 days. We have 5 days to complete all of our inspections. We've already got an inspector lined up. That's how we're going to do it. That is going to be something that will motivate and show someone how committed your client is to the property. And then you could say, and the other 1,000 goes non-refundable after the finance and appraisal deadline. That's just an idea. You can play around with that any way you want, and that's probably an extreme version of what you might do, but it's at least a version for you to see, wow, I can actually get that detailed. And think about how high the high level of commitment that you are showing when you're offering to do that. Okay, so we've got deadlines, we've got earnest money. Let's just roll through a couple other things that are part of the contract. So included / excluded. Okay, included items and excluded items. What are you asking them for versus what they're already offering? Okay, if they're offering already a refrigerator, washer, dryer, and all those things, that's phenomenal. And you can add and include those items. What if they are not offering to include the refrigerator? What if they're not offering to include some of the other appliances? Well, if you want to have your offer be the best, you might be thoughtful about the idea, I'm going to make this totally clean, even though they might be willing to give me their refrigerator. If I want to have the highest chance of earning this offer, winning on this offer, I may not ask for anything they're not already offering. And it goes back to the communication, of course. Are you asking the agent those questions? Because you might say to the agent, so they're not offering the refrigerator, and he might say, oh, it doesn't matter. He's good. They're going to be good either way on that. Then you know you might be able to ask for it. But have you ever been involved in a transaction where you asked for the refrigerator and that became a huge sticking point? in the transaction. I know that I have, and I know that others have. And what you're trying to do is try to take negative emotion out of the transaction and allow a buyer or a seller to get so caught up on what the other one is or is not willing to negotiate on, and simply get yourself focused on how do we make the cleanest, smoothest offer as possible right now. So that brings up another great point from that standpoint is a clean offer. Okay, we hear that a lot. We're sending you over a really nice clean offer. Well, if you look for a moment, closing costs here, I've written that down. That goes part to the net. Are closing costs really absolutely critical to be asked for? If they're not, my advice would be that you don't ask for it. You show more strength from your buyer's situation. They're able to put more cash down. If there's an appraisal issue, your client doesn't have to be thinking, and so this is where it benefits the seller as well. But if there's an appraisal issue, you don't have to be worried about, oh, if the appraisal is lower, not only do we have to reduce the amount that the appraisal came in low, we also have to reduce the amount of the closing cost that the buyer has to have paid. So keep that in mind, the strength of your position. If you're representing a buyer, make sure that you're verbalizing that to the selling agent to say, we don't need closing costs paid, and by the way, this is why I think that's important for your seller. Because if we have an appraisal issue, because you can tell the strength of our financial situation, that financing shouldn't be an issue here. And then vice versa, if you're a listing agent and you're receiving all of these offers and you go to your sellers, that's what you should be telling them and looking at to say, hey, here's an interesting one. Here's this, especially in this market where we've got values increasing so much due to the supply and demand. That is a great opportunity for you to consider not asking for closing costs if they're not necessary. And then, of course, helping your buyer and your seller understand why that could be important. Do we have a question?
We have a comment.
Oh, a comment. Okay. So I don't hear Matt on the thing, but Matt's saying it's helpful to inform the sellers of the risk of appraisals in an upmarket when you're getting offers over list. NAR says appraisals are second biggest obstacles currently in deals falling through. This helps explain to the seller why the highest offer isn't always the best offer. In fact, some agents are using a high offer as a tactic, knowing that once they secure an accepted offer, other buyers go away, and therefore they have more leverage to then work over the seller on pricing. Food for thought. Great thought, Matt, and I completely agree. And for those of you that don't know Matt, he's our principal broker here in Utah. And again, I would trust this guy with everything up and down from a risk management standpoint. So a very good thought there. Keeping that in mind, that with these low appraisals that are coming in a lot, I'm hearing about it every single day, because the appraisers are in a tricky situation. Make sure you're educating both your buyers and your sellers, and specifically the listing agents, that highest is not always best. Okay? That needs to just be ringing through your head whenever you're talking to your clients. Highest is not always best. So great thought, Matt. So let's see, and feel free to participate if you have any thoughts that you want to add to what you can do to increase your chances and likelihood of getting a multiple offer accepted. These are some of the great things to do. So from a clean offer standpoint, boy, you might also consider how important is a home warranty. Should your clients be getting home warranties for their homes? Absolutely, there's no question. We should recommend it. I'm not suggesting anything differently than that. But does the seller always have to pay for the home warranty? They don't, and it's actually right in our contract. There's an option there. It can become part of the closing costs and all that, but does it have to be paid for by the seller? And so as you look at, your net and all of that good stuff, and the seller's net and how to work through that, that's absolutely imperative. Next is going to be just a couple other food for thought. I know we're getting close on our time here, but a couple other food for thought to be thinking about. So have you ever been walking through a house, looking at a home with a client, and they say, oh, I want to buy this house, let's put an offer on. They have to fix that window for us, though. They have to fix that window. I want that part of the offer. Now, no problem. You can tell them, absolutely, we can work through that. But if you want your offer to be a shining star among the other offers, if you're already asking for repairs right out the gate, strategically, that may not be the best move. helping make sure that you educate your buyers and get them in a situation where not only are you confirming for them that yes, we can get that taken care of, but that is what the due diligence time frame is for. That's why you do your inspections, is we can figure all of that stuff out. Schooling and this, that, and the other, the repairs that need to be done, questions you have about the sprinkling system and all of that good stuff. Let's make sure that the offer is clean as can be. That goes a long way in these situations. So if we do a quick review, and there's plenty more to add on how to improve these offers, but it comes down, number one, be likable, communicate frequently and often, ask lots of really good questions. Not just, hey, what's your highest offer, or where do we need to come in at to get this done? I'm not saying that those are bad questions, but if I was selling real estate full-time right now, what I would be doing is I would be asking other questions like, hey, what's most important to your seller about this transaction? What's most important to them about what they're leaving and what's staying? What's most important to them about getting the money that they need versus getting the home sold? What matters more, performance or price? And walking through all of those things. You're actually building a rapport through that time, and then maybe go in with questions like, well, where do you think we need to be? Above asking price? Where's our situation? Now, some agents are going to respond with, well, I can't tell you that. Well, with permission from the seller, they sure could. And it's interesting to think, if it was in the seller's best interest to provide information like, here's how much we'll give, because it's so vague actually and ambiguous to say, just send us your highest and best offer, right? That's really what we're doing. I would really, from a listing agent standpoint, I would communicate with that seller to say, I'm going to have a lot of agents asking me questions like, where are our offers? Where do we need to be on this? What do they want? And just getting permission in writing to have the ability to really talk and disclose and find a way to secure them the highest and the best offer through that entire situation. So making sure you have the communication going through the actual offer and working through those. So you've got your price, your net, earnest money, contingency deadlines, included and excluded items, thinking of things like home warranties, additional addendums. Are you talking right out the gates about repairs and all that good stuff? If there's anything that I could hope to be leaving you with today, it would simply be this. What used to work, the send an email over to someone and see how they respond, doesn't work anymore. Because there's so many offers, so much competition, you've got to step up your game. And as is said, if you want different results, you have to do things differently. So take the bull by the horns, be thoughtful, thinking outside the box, thinking of different ideas and having that ingenuity to find other ways to win in these situations. And if you follow some of the counsel that I've given today, I'm certain that you're going to find yourself winning more of these things. So do we have any questions or anything else going on? So if guys, I'm going to let you unmute the call, and if you can push 4* if you have any questions or comments that you would like to add to the training. Yeah, we got you. In person?
Repeat the question.
Okay, so the question that was just posed was, what about presenting the offer personally? Phenomenal question. I know here in Utah, we're in a culture where that would be very odd. I can tell you with absolute certainty, I would love to be able to go present my offer personally to the seller. But in Utah, we're in a culture where that would be very odd. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't ask and see if it would work. There's nothing against asking and seeing if that would work. And California, I see that happen, but and shame on me to admit this, but I only see it happen because I see those reality shows where they do that. So I think it's a $1 million listing, which actually I know Tina Hare was on, which was really cool to watch, one of our California superstars. But I think it would be a phenomenal idea. I would love the opportunity to do that, because here's the interesting thing, gang. After everything I've said today, what it really comes down to is you only have, from a buyer agent standpoint, you only have so much you can do, and the rest is in control of the listing agent because they're going to be. So I can tell you that if someone called me about a listing that I had and said, hey, we'd like to present this offer personally, face to face, I'd be weirded out by that, only because I would think, well, I can handle that. Now, having said that, I would also love to be the person that gets to go sit down in front of the seller. So boy, if you can find a way to make that part of your strategy and part of the way that you're doing things, I think that's a great approach. In a market like this, it will be tough because we're talking about multiple offers here. And in multiple offers, that's going to make it even more challenging because typically the agent's sitting down with them right now with at least 2, 3, 4 offers. But phenomenal question. I hope I've been clear as mud on what you could do there. I love the idea, and I love thinking outside the box that way. Again, any other questions, guys? Hit 4 star, unmute yourself, and you can ask the group. Or type a question in Facebook Live. Okay, phenomenal. Guys, I hope that some of this information today will be helpful. These are just a few ideas and things that I've learned, and what I shared today could be an hour-long training and we could really dive in, but if nothing else, I hope the thought that comes to your mind is, am I doing my best and giving my client the best chance, if you're representing a buyer, to have their offer win? And then if you're representing the listing, if you're the listing agent, am I giving my clients the opportunity to receive not just the highest, but the best offer? And are we working with the right people? And you really have to work a little bit harder, have a little bit more ingenuity and thinking outside the box and looking at those things to make that work. So hope everyone has a fantastic day. Thanks for joining in on the coaching call and appreciate everyone so much. Have a great day.